You think she likes you. She just likes how you make her feel powerful. I'm not here to make you feel better about your last breakup or tell you that everything happens for a reason. I'm here because you keep choosing the same kind of woman and calling it bad luck. By the end of this, you'll know the 5 types of women who don't date you. They feed on you. And here's what nobody tells you at 40, 50, or 60 years old. They don't take your money first. They take your energy. And by the time you notice, you're already running on empty. If you value truth over comfortable lies, hit that like and hype buttons immediately. Subscribe to this channel and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to know where my strongest, most aware men are tuning in tonight. Let me explain something about relationships that your father probably never taught you, something I learned after coaching hundreds of men through the aftermath of these connections. Every interaction is an energy exchange. Some people multiply what you give them and hand it back amplified. Others consume it and leave you wondering why you feel so exhausted after what should have been a simple conversation. When you walk away from the right woman, you feel lighter, inspired, ready to take on the world. When you walk away from the wrong one, you feel like you're recovering from illness, physically drained, mentally foggy, emotionally depleted. That's why your friend disappeared for 6 months after dating that girl who always said she was just so misunderstood. He wasn't being dramatic or going through a phase. He was being drained one conversation at a time. I call them energy vampires, not because they wear black or listen to sad music or have any obvious red flags, but because they're addicted to emotional attention instead of growth. They need your empathy, your reassurance, your constant presence, not because they love you, but because they need to feel alive through you. And the worst part, you probably invited at least one into your life this year without even realizing what you were doing. Let's dissect the 5 species you keep welcoming through your door, often with open arms and good intentions. First, you need to understand how they find you in the first place. Energy vampires don't chase, they lure. They're not running after you with obvious neediness. They spot empathy, like sharks smell blood in the water. She compliments your calm demeanor, then immediately tells you about her chaos. She says you're such a good listener, then talks for 3 hours straight without asking a single question about your life. You think you're building intimacy, creating a deep connection, but really, you're just getting exhausted with a nicer label attached to it. The connection feels deep because it's draining every ounce of emotional capacity you have. And the first type? She pretends she's saving you while she's systematically dismantling you piece by piece. The savior addict. She builds her entire identity around fixing broken men. The problem is, she needs you broken to feel useful, valued, necessary. When you start healing or standing on your own 2 feet, she doesn't celebrate your progress. She panics. Because if you're whole, if you're functioning independently, what's her role in your life? You'll recognize her immediately once you know what to look for. She gives endless advice you didn't ask for. Her tone is motherly, caring, concerned, but her questions probe into every corner of your emotional life like she's conducting an investigation. She brings you soup when you're sick, which sounds sweet and thoughtful until 3 weeks later when she guilt-trips you for not texting enough gratitude or remembering to thank her properly. She remembers every favor, every sacrifice, every single moment she was there for you, and she'll bring them up whenever you try to establish a boundary. Here's what's really happening beneath the surface. Control disguised as care. She's not nurturing, she's farming validation. Every time you lean on her, she gets a hit of purpose that fills whatever void she's carrying. Every time you thank her, she feels worthy of existing. But the moment you stop needing her constant intervention, she'll manufacture problems to solve. Your job stress becomes her personal mission. Your family issues become her project to manage. And when you finally tell her you're fine, that you've got things under control, she takes it as rejection and abandonment. I watched this happen to a colleague of mine in his late 40s who should have known better. Met a woman who seemed incredibly supportive during his career transition after a layoff. She helped him rewrite his resume, practiced interviews with him for hours, sent motivational texts every single morning. He thought he'd found a partner who genuinely cared about his success and well-being. Then he got the job, a better position than he'd left. Suddenly, she was criticizing his new boss based on nothing, questioning every decision he made at work, suggesting he was changing for the worse and losing himself. Within 2 months, she'd convinced him the job wasn't right for him, that he was selling out or betraying his values. Not because it wasn't a good opportunity, but because his success meant she wasn't needed anymore. He eventually realized she wasn't supporting his growth. She was managing his dependence on her. When he finally ended it, she told mutual friends he'd become arrogant and forgotten, who helped him when he was down. But the next type doesn't try to heal you or fix you. She haunts you. The melancholic muse. She seduces through sadness, poetic pain, soft voice, deep eyes that always seem to be gazing at some distant hurt only she can see. You think you're falling in love with depth and complexity, but you're really falling into her emotional outlet. She doesn't want a partner. She wants an audience for her suffering, a witness to her pain. She sends you songs that describe her mood, but never any solutions. She writes long messages about feeling lost and misunderstood, then gets upset when you offer advice or suggestions instead of just holding space for her pain indefinitely. Everything is aesthetic suffering, the kind that looks beautiful and profound from the outside, but never actually gets resolved or worked through. Here's the pattern you need to recognize. She cries at midnight, posts cryptic quotes on social media at 12:05, and calls you at 12:10. Not to process emotions or move through them, but to perform them for an audience. You start to realize over time that she's not sad about specific things. She's addicted to melancholy itself, the drama of it, the romance of being misunderstood and complex, the identity of being the wounded artist or sensitive soul. And you're just the supporting character in her ongoing tragic story, always there to watch her suffer beautifully. I knew a man in his 50s who dated a woman like this for 2 full years. Every single weekend was another emotional crisis that derailed their plans. Her ex texted her something vague, emotional crisis. She saw a couple holding hands in the park, emotional crisis about her loneliness. A sad scene in a movie, you guessed it, another crisis. He thought he was being patient, compassionate, the kind of mature man who could handle a complex woman with depth. Really, he was drowning slowly. When he finally left, he told me he hadn't realized how much energy it took to keep someone else's sadness afloat day after day. He spent 6 months just learning to feel light again, to have a weekend without manufactured drama. And when you try to rescue her from her melancholy, you drown in her favorite drama. The spotlight thief. Now this one's particularly tricky because she seems fun at first. Charming, loud, magnetic. Life of every party. You feel lucky she's interested in you, flattered by her attention, until you outshine her once. Just once. Then you see who she really is. When you win at something, she changes the subject within seconds. When you share good news about your life, she suddenly remembers something more interesting that happened to her. When you struggle, though, that's when she shines brightest. She loves you vulnerable and uncertain, because that's when you're not competition for attention. She flirts with your friends as a joke, but the joke always lands on you looking foolish or jealous. She tells embarrassing stories about you to get laughs at gatherings. She interrupts your conversations to redirect attention back to her like a spotlight that can't stay off her for more than a minute. Her love language isn't touch or words or quality time. It's attention, pure and simple. And her absolute nightmare is your indifference. The energy dynamic here is pure performance art. She doesn't love you. She loves having an audience, and you're close enough to witness her daily show. The moment you stop watching, stop reacting, stop feeding her need to be the most interesting person in every room, she'll find someone else's energy to steal without hesitation. I've seen this wreck good men who thought they were just being supportive partners, giving their woman space to shine. They weren't partners in her eyes. They were props in her performance, background characters in her story. But the fourth type doesn't need the spotlight at all. She builds it just to watch you burn. The chaos curator. She's always in a situation. Her calendar is one crisis after another. Ex-boyfriend drama, job drama, friend drama, family drama, yet she swears up and down she hates drama and just wants peace. That statement alone should have been your first clue that something was wrong. Every single week there's an urgent call that can't wait. Every date gets postponed or interrupted because something came up at the last minute. You've cancelled your own plans 3 times this month because of her emergencies, and somehow you're the one apologizing for not being available enough or caring enough. Her life is a burning building, and she keeps handing you matches while asking why you can't put out the flames fast enough. Here's the psychology behind this type. She stays alive through adrenaline. Peace feels like suffocation to her nervous system. A calm week feels empty, like she's slipping away. So she manufactures chaos to feel something, anything. And you're her emotional firefighter, always on call, always running toward her latest disaster with your equipment ready. She feeds exclusively on rescue energy. The moment you stop saving her, she vanishes. Not because she's angry or hurt, but because you're no longer useful to her survival mechanism. I've seen men my age waste years on women like this, thinking they just needed to be patient until things calmed down in her life. Things never calm down. The chaos is the entire point of her existence. One guy I know spent 3 years helping her through crisis after crisis. Job loss, apartment flooding, car accidents, family feuds, friend betrayals. The week he told her he needed to focus on his own health issue, something potentially serious, she stopped returning his calls completely. She didn't even ask what was wrong with him. He realized later that she couldn't handle being the supporting character in someone else's crisis. And that leaves the final type, the one even other vampires fear. The mirror manipulator. She mirrors your personality so perfectly, you think you've found your soulmate. She loves your music taste. She believes in loyalty and honesty. She hates small talk and superficial people. She wants the same future you want, marriage, travel, quiet evenings, whatever you mentioned. It's uncanny and almost magical how perfectly aligned you are on everything. Then you notice something strange if you pay attention. She changes tastes every single time she dates someone new. Her last boyfriend was into hiking. She was obsessed with trails and outdoor gear. The one before that was a musician. She spent a year at open mics pretending to love the scene. Now she's with you, and suddenly she's interested in whatever you're interested in, whether it's classic cars or cooking or philosophy. She's an identity parasite. She becomes whoever keeps her fed emotionally. There's no core personality underneath the mask, just a shapeshifter adapting to her current energy source like a chameleon. And the telltale cue? She disappears once you expect depth or authenticity. Ask her what she actually wants, independent of you and your preferences, and watch her dissolve into vague answers and deflection. She doesn't ghost you in the traditional sense. She evaporates, because there's nothing solid there to stay. Why you keep attracting them? Now let's talk about the real problem here. You. Not because you're broken or weak or damaged, but because energy vampires specifically target men with high empathy and low boundaries. You're generous and unguarded, which in healthy relationships is beautiful and valuable. But to them, it's an open buffet with no closing time. Every one of them said the same line, didn't they? You're not like other guys. You thought it was a genuine compliment about your character. It was an assessment of your vulnerability. Translation, you're easier to drain than most. You listen without judging. You give without keeping score. You assume the best in people even when they show you otherwise. All admirable traits in theory, and all exploitable weaknesses to someone who feeds on attention and emotional labor. The shift you need to make isn't about becoming cold or distant or cynical. It's about observation over explanation. Stop trying to understand why she's acting this way. Stop making excuses for her behavior. And start noticing patterns instead. Does she only call when she needs something? Does she get upset or accusatory when you have boundaries? Does she create crises right when your life finally stabilizes? Once you protect your energy consciously, their charm rots instantly. You'll see through the performance because you're no longer part of the audience, giving them what they need. How to starve a vampire without becoming one. Here's how you detach without becoming the very thing you're trying to avoid. Silent detachment, not dramatic exits or explanations. No emotional rescue missions or attempts to fix them one last time. Clarity over conflict every single time. Don't fight for peace. Be the peace that makes chaos choke and die. When she calls at midnight with another crisis, you don't have to engage or solve it. When she guilt-trips you about not caring enough, you don't have to defend yourself or prove your worth. Your presence isn't a reward she earned through manipulation. She'll accuse you of being cold or changing or not being the man she thought you were. That's just her warmth losing its grip on your energy. She'll say you've changed into someone unrecognizable. You have. You stopped letting her feed off you. She'll try one last big emotional play to pull you back in, some final crisis or confession. Don't bite. The principle is simple. They vanish when no longer fed attention. Not because they're evil people, but because they're addicted to a certain type of interaction. And you're not responsible for managing someone else's addiction to drama or chaos or validation. When the last one leaves, you'll finally meet someone real. What healthy energy actually feels like. Here's the contrast nobody talks about in detail. Healthy women don't drain. They exchange, equal give and take. You walk away from conversations feeling energized, not exhausted. The signs are subtle but unmistakable once you know them. Calm tone. Consistent curiosity about your life that doesn't feel like interrogation. Absence of emotional turbulence and manufactured drama. She doesn't chase answers. She listens and stays quiet after truth. She doesn't need you to fix her or save her or complete her like a puzzle piece. She's whole, and she's interested in building something meaningful with another whole person. You'll know the difference because peace won't bore you anymore. Right now, after years of chaos, you might think drama equals passion. It doesn't. Drama equals chaos. Passion is something else entirely. It's fire without destruction. But you'll only recognize healthy passion if you detox from chaos first. The truth that ends the spell. 5 types. 1 core truth. You don't fix what feeds on you. I've spent years coaching men through the wreckage these women leave behind. The pattern is always the same. You thought you were being a good man, patient, understanding, present. Really, you were being a good meal. And the saddest part, you'll do it again if you don't learn this lesson now. An energy vampire doesn't steal your light. She convinces you to hand her the switch. She makes you believe that your empathy, your kindness, your willingness to help is what love looks like. But love doesn't leave you empty. Love doesn't require you to shrink so she can expand. Love doesn't feel like slow suffocation with a smile. The next time you meet someone who seems too interested too fast, who needs you too much too soon, who makes you feel like a hero for just showing up, pause. Ask yourself what you're getting out of this beyond the feeling of being needed, because being needed isn't the same as being loved, and you deserve better than being someone's emotional supply chain. You're not weak for falling for this. You're human. But now you know. And knowing means you can't unsee it. The next time she texts at midnight, the next time she needs rescuing, the next time she mirrors you perfectly, you'll recognize the pattern. And you'll walk away before she takes another piece of you. That's the real power. Not fighting them, not fixing them, not even hating them, just seeing them clearly and choosing yourself instead.